The radio went silent at 2:17 a.m., and everybody inside the operations room immediately knew something had gone wrong. Because Black Hawk crews don't just disappear in the middle of a mission, especially not in enemy territory. Afghanistan, winter, a U.S. Special Operations team was flying through a mountain valley during a nighttime extraction mission. Simple operation: get in, pick up an intelligence asset, get out before sunrise. At least that was the plan. Inside the cockpit of Ghost 31, Chief Warrant Officer Mason Reed adjusted his night vision goggles while scanning the mountains below. Snow and heavy wind made visibility terrible. Beside him, co-pilot Daniel Harper checked the instruments nervously. "This weather's getting worse," Harper muttered. In the back of the helicopter, 6 operators sat silently with rifles across their laps. Nobody talked. Veterans usually don't before missions. Then suddenly, BEEP, BEEP, BEEP. The missile warning alarm exploded inside the cockpit. "Missile!" Harper shouted. Reed reacted instantly, pulling the helicopter hard left while defensive flares launched into the darkness. Bright orange flashes lit up the valley. For 1 second, it looked like they escaped. Then the missile hit. BOOM! The entire helicopter violently shook. Every warning light turned red. "Engine failure," Harper yelled. Hydraulic pressure dropped immediately. The helicopter started losing altitude fast. Reed fought the controls desperately. "Mayday, mayday, Ghost 31 hit." Static, then silence. At Forward Operating Base Titan, Captain Elias Turner stared at the radio operator. "You lost them?" The operator nodded slowly. "No contact, sir." The room became dead quiet. Everybody understood what that meant. A helicopter had just gone down deep inside hostile territory, at night, in the mountains, and if the crash didn't kill them, the enemy probably would. Drone surveillance quickly located the wreckage. Ghost 31 had crashed in a frozen valley surrounded by Taliban-controlled villages. Worst possible location. Then the drone spotted movement. Armed fighters were already heading toward the crash site. Captain Turner immediately made the decision. "We launch a rescue team now." One officer hesitated. "Sir, weather conditions are terrible." Turner looked at him coldly. "So are their survival chances." 40 minutes later, another helicopter lifted off into the storm. Inside sat Sergeant Cole Ramirez and his quick reaction force team. Former Army Ranger, multiple deployments, the kind of soldier who stayed calm no matter how bad things got. As the helicopter flew through the mountains, Ramirez listened to the briefing. "Unknown number of survivors," the crew chief explained. "Enemy force is already moving toward the wreck." Ramirez nodded while checking his rifle. Nobody inside the aircraft spoke after that. Back at the crash site, snow covered the destroyed helicopter. The front half of Ghost 31 had slammed into rocks at full speed. Metal burned, fuel leaked. Across the frozen ground, inside the wreckage, Mason Reed slowly regained consciousness. His ears rang violently. Blood covered part of his face. He tried moving and immediately felt horrible pain in his leg. Broken. Beside him, Harper was still alive, but badly injured. In the back compartment, 2 operators were dead on impact. 3 others survived, barely. One of them, Staff Sergeant Walker, crawled outside while firing short bursts into the darkness. Enemy fighters were already approaching. "We need perimeter security," Walker shouted, but the team was in terrible condition. Low ammo, multiple injuries, freezing temperatures, and no guarantee rescue was coming. Then Reed heard static through the emergency radio. A weak voice, but clear enough. "Ghost 31, hold your position, rescue team inbound." Relief hit instantly. They weren't abandoned. 20 minutes later, Ramirez's helicopter entered the valley and immediately started taking fire. Tracer rounds ripped through the darkness from the mountainsides. "Contact left," the door gunner yelled. The minigun opened fire instantly, lighting up the valley with streams of red tracers. Ramirez looked through the open door and saw the wreck below. Smoke poured into the freezing air. The landing zone looked terrible. Uneven rocks, heavy snow, enemy fighters everywhere. But they had no choice. The helicopter slammed onto the frozen ground. The rescue team jumped out immediately into gunfire. Bullets cracked across the valley. Move! Move, Ramirez shouted. The team pushed toward the wreck while returning fire. An RPG exploded nearby, throwing snow and dirt into the air. Inside the wreckage, Reed saw shadows moving through smoke. At first he thought it was the enemy. Then he heard a voice yell, "U.S. Army, stay awake." Rescue had arrived. Ramirez reached the cockpit and saw how bad the crash really was. Harper was trapped beneath twisted metal. "We need cutters over here," Ramirez yelled. Enemy fire intensified around the valley. The rescue team formed a defensive perimeter while engineers worked to free the pilots. One operator checked his magazines nervously. "We're running low on ammo." More fighters appeared along the ridgeline above them. Too many. The enemy knew exactly where they were now, and they were closing in fast. Finally, after several brutal minutes, the metal gave way. Harper screamed in pain as soldiers pulled him free. "Move him to the bird!" The rescue team started dragging survivors toward the helicopter. Then the pilot yelled over the radio, "We cannot stay here much longer." The rescue helicopter had already taken damage. If they waited too long, nobody was leaving alive. Ramirez looked back toward the burning wreckage. Then he noticed movement. One soldier still inside, unconscious, trapped beneath debris. Without hesitation, Ramirez turned and sprinted back into the smoke. "Sergeant, leave him," someone yelled. Ramirez ignored them. Inside the burning helicopter, flames spread rapidly. Ammo started exploding in the heat. He grabbed the trapped soldier and pulled with everything he had. For several terrifying seconds, nothing moved. Then suddenly the metal shifted. Outside, soldiers watched the burning wreck nervously. "He's not getting out." Then Ramirez finally emerged from the smoke, dragging the unconscious operator behind him. The entire team opened fire to cover them. Bullets slammed into rocks around the valley. The rescue helicopter touched down one final time. Just enough time. The wounded were loaded aboard while enemy fighters closed in from the mountains. "Joe!" "Joe!" Ramirez shouted. The helicopter lifted off hard into the storm while tracer rounds flew past the open doors. Inside the cabin, medics worked desperately to keep the survivors alive. Nobody spoke for several moments, only heavy breathing, pain, and rotor noise. Finally, Mason Reed looked toward Ramirez. "You came back for us." Ramirez leaned against the cabin wall, exhausted. "That's the job." 3 soldiers died that night, but 7 survived because another team refused to leave them behind. And according to intelligence reports later released, enemy fighters reached the crash site less than 10 minutes after the rescue helicopter escaped. If the rescue team had arrived any later, nobody would have made it home. The end.